Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm here today with David, and we are talking about relationships. Months and months ago, we promised you a relationships Q&A, and today is the day. It's actually in conjunction with the abundance this week of soulmate energy that's available. The Kabbalists teach that every week brings us different opportunities, different challenges to overcome, different gifts to tap into. And this is the week that we get to tap into soulmate energy. So whether you're in a relationship and you want to bring more of that soulmate energy to the relationship, or you're single and looking, or you're single and not looking, we have some goodies for you. We've been taking questions from social media. I think we started getting questions last year in May already. So I've been keeping track, and we're going to get to as many of those questions as we can today, as well as to continue the conversation on social media. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where David and I and our guests provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical wisdom. We do that by gleaning through the wisdom of Kabbalah and picking out the nuggets and gems that have helped us, that have helped our students, and of course, can help you not only this week, but any week of the year. So in focusing on relationships, we took questions from emails from social media platforms, and I'm just going to roll them out, David. And if you have any questions that came to you that you want to throw in there, go for it. Yeah. One question that I think we've gotten over the years multiple times, although someone sent it in very succinctly this week, we always talk about how relationships serve a spiritual purpose. They're the most powerful tool for spiritual growth. So one of our listeners wrote in asking, if you have a relationship based on fun, money, and sex, would that block you from blessings and meeting your soulmate?
What? The only issue with these questions is I always need more context.
Well,
a relationship based on fun?
Meaning this person just wants to have a good time.
Okay.
Is the desire to have a good time going to prevent them from meeting the one?
Right.
And spending energy on having fun, how does that play out in our quest for finding the one?
Okay, so I think there's always this challenge people have with what they want right now in the moment and what they think they should be having, or what the universe wants for them.
I shouldn't be eating popcorn right now. I should be saving room for dinner.
Right. I mean, really, that's really the question. The question is, if I'm eating popcorn right now, and should I not be eating popcorn and eating something more healthy? I mean, I don't know what kind of question that is, because at the end of the day,
that's really what she's asking.
So really, at the end of the day, we have to first realize that there is no judgment from the upper worlds or from the creator's point of view. The creator doesn't see good versus bad. The creator doesn't see a difference between the soul of a person who is completely connected to the light versus the soul of a person who may be extremely negative. So imagine the most negative person in this world versus the most positive. From the creator's point of view, there is no difference. Everything is from the perspective of the vessel and from our consciousness. What's powerful about that is that the creator has designed this world in a way that whatever our desires are, this is what we will attract. And so if she, it sounds like it's a she, is in a relationship that is based on, as she said, it's fun, it's spontaneous, this person is financially well-to-do, so there's comfort there, there's sexual chemistry. She has to realize that this is what she wants at this stage in her life. Now, maybe her soul is telling her that there's something more. Maybe she's feeling an inkling of something greater out there, more powerful soul. But that's something she has to come to terms with and make a decision internally that she wants to pursue and look for that. And often people will look for it when they see there's emptiness in the current situation that they're in. But it sounds like she's having a good time. It sounds like it's fulfilling. In her case, I would say focus on other areas of your life that are probably a little more pressing. Other areas where it is clear that the universe is asking you to make a change. It is clear that the universe is asking you, grow up there, elevate your consciousness, maybe learn deeper, go study deeper. Who knows what it is? But it doesn't sound like right now she needs to make some kind of dramatic shift in her love life.
Okay.
I hope that's a more of a balanced approach of how we are.
No, I think also to your point, the challenge is when a person desires one thing but is doing something else, right? So if she desires the soulmate but is compromising and going for the fun or the fling, there's that dissonance internally is actually what causes the challenge more than anything.
Yeah, and my point is the desire for the fling is at least 1% greater than the desire for the non-fling or whatever she thinks is out there. And by the way, maybe the fling is supposed to be the very thing that is teaching her what she needs to learn today that will lead, maybe that person becomes the long-term relationship. Like, we don't know. And I think we're also busy judging ourselves and being paranoid about what's the right thing to do, as opposed to just being present and enjoying and connecting to what you're going through right now. Right? So like maybe just be present in this relationship, and that could turn out to be a spiritual relationship. It could be the one that is meant for you. Because we always say soulmate is not a person, it's a soul. So you can attract the soul of your soulmate into the person you're with.
Right. Now, I'm going to give you, this is sort of an easy one. Maybe we should have started with it, but probably the number one question we get asked, why do I keep attracting the same type of people?
Why do we attract the same type of people?
Class 2 of Kabbalah 1.
Class 2 of Kabbalah 1, we have tikkun, we have something that needs repair inside of ourselves. The best way to diagnose what that repair is when we interact with another human being. Other humans will either reflect what we need to change or trigger what we need to change. And so there is some kind of trauma from this life or past lives, most likely always from past life, that is attracting the same type of destiny. So that is one component to it. Another component to it is my own personal belief system about what I am meant to receive in this life.
What do I deserve?
What do I deserve? This is the big one. This could be a cap for a lot of people. It's a ceiling. It's a limit. It doesn't matter how much the creator wants to give you. It doesn't even matter how much work you've done to earn a new destiny. If you don't believe you are deserving of receiving it, you cut off the energy supply. So you've capped yourself from growing even more. So a lot of times people believe that they should have relationships that are a certain way, and so you attract them over and over again. You believe you deserve to be punished. You believe you deserve to always be in fighting mode.
Relationships need to be hard.
Relationships need to be hard. If we're not fighting, we're not growing. So we should be fighting all the time. And if I'm loved too much, then I feel ashamed. I feel that I don't deserve that because of all the horrible things I've done in my life. So I don't want a relationship that will be too good to me, too kind to me. There should be a little bit of abuse sprinkled into this relationship to make me feel more at peace and calm. And that I don't want the bar to be too high. If I start meeting better people, higher quality people, higher consciousness people, well, that means that I have to go to my next level to compete. I have to go to my next level to add value to them. When I'm surrounded by people of low consciousness, I can add value very easily this way because they are of lower consciousness. But once I start being around the big boys, well, now I got to grow up too and put on my big boy pants. And I'm not sure I'm ready to do that yet. Hence, we attract the same people.
Right. I used to give a example or kind of an illustration in classes when we would talk about this, that a person asks for their soulmate, which I'm sure many of our listeners are asking for their soulmate. And the universe looks at you and says, you have this much more light to reveal in order for the soulmate to become part of your movie, the next tool that you need to do your spiritual work. So if you have a challenge with being patient, that may look like what do they call it? Like an unfortunate series of events where your patience is tested, right? You're going on a date with somebody. It's actually your soulmate you're going to be going out on this first date with. So you get in the car and there's traffic. So you try to take a shortcut, but there's construction on the shortcut and like all these different things. You stop at a gas station, you say, hey buddy, is there another way for me to get where I need to go? And the person doesn't understand you or ignores you or begins to talk to you about politics, right? Every aspect of your patience is tested. And you think it's about being late or being on time or people are idiots, when really the universe wants to give you your soulmate, and the process of earning it is coming through transforming into a more patient human being. So you may end up being around people who are, you may attract a certain kind of person into your life repeatedly so that you will evolve, so that you will receive, you will have the vessel, the capacity to experience and enjoy that which you're asking for. I think it was in Evan Almighty. I've used this quote before, where Morgan Freeman is playing God, and he shows up at a diner, and the woman next to him tells him what's going on, and he says, when you ask for patience, you don't get it on a silver platter. You get opportunities to grow your patience. So when you ask for your soulmate, you ask for the one, you receive opportunities to draw and to earn the one. So it's important to ask that question. Why is this happening? How can I grow from it? What is this here to teach me? And little by little, the person you attract will transform.
I was just thinking of this analogy. I don't know if a lot of people know who David Goggins is, but you look him up. It's a hardcore ex-Navy SEAL, he's all into like this incredible kinds of trainings that push you against your limit. And I was thinking to myself, a person has a desire for a trainer, let's say at the gym, to become better with their health, exercise, whatever. And then someone offered you David Goggins to be your personal trainer. We might find that to be exciting for 5 minutes. We may tell all our friends and post photos with him. But the truth is, nobody wants David Goggins to be responsible for their training, waking them up at 4 a.m., dunking them in cold water, forcing them to run 30 miles, regardless of how you feel. And that's just the warm-up, right? So I think all of us subconsciously of why we attract similar types of people is we haven't decided to go to our next level. And so we do not want the David Goggins of the world to actually be in our lives, even though he might.
We don't want the universe to go into David Goggins mode.
Correct. And by the way, we may say we want it. We may find that exciting for the first 5 minutes. However, if you start to visualize what a David Goggins level trainer would be, or a David Goggins level relationship would be, or a David Goggins level spiritual teacher would be, because not all teachers and mentors are created equal. And sometimes we don't want to have people in our lives with too much consciousness or too strong or too intense, because that's going to force us to level up, and we're not ready for that yet.
Okay. Now we're going to shift gears and go into a more ideas on more questions around ending relationships and the end of relationships. What is the healthy way to get over Well, now I'm looking at it, it's 2 questions. What is a healthy way to get over rejection and betrayal? Which that's what I'm saying now. I see it's 2 different questions.
What is a healthy way to get over rejection and betrayal? Do you want to start?
Well, I can start with rejection, and it's going to sound very cliche and like my heart's never been broken before, but in Kabbalah, we learn that rejection is protection. That even though we want something, we want a relationship to last forever, we want a particular person, we want a job, we want a house, whatever it is, and we don't get it and it doesn't go our way. And it's funny, I had this conversation with my 10-year-old this week, that when things don't go your way, the light force of the Creator is involved. When they do go your way, you need to wonder, because sometimes our desire for something is so strong that the universe backs up and says, listen, you want it so badly, it's yours. And even though it might not be the best thing for us. So when we had an episode over the summer, I think it was about, or maybe even the spring, about ending, what's the spiritual way to go about endings. And one of the overriding themes in that episode was, just because something ends doesn't mean it's failed. And I think that's one of the most important things to remember in the face of rejection is, if somebody says, this is no longer for me, or I'm not interested, it's not an indication that you did something wrong or that something bad happened. It can be you are ready for your next level. And that's one of the things that comes out in the teachings around this week, is that there are, if two people are ready to be together, nothing can stand between them, including another person. So if one of those people is in a relationship, if two soulmates are ready for one another and one of those people is in a relationship, their current relationship must end. It's like a cosmic force that can't be blocked or stopped. So just because something ends doesn't mean it's failed. And even though there is an ending involved, it's not a bad sign or a negative thing.
I love this topic of rejection because I think there's many different buckets. There's the business world, there's your romantic life, there's friendship life. And I always say you want to get to that place where you're not insulted because you weren't invited to the party. You're insulted because you were invited to the party. That's the level you want to get to, where you have so much self-confidence, self-love. You appreciate your time so much that if somebody would invite you somewhere, you would be insulted that they even think that you have the time to go, right? So this is the level you want to get to in your own consciousness. And the only way to get to a place of self-love and self-confidence is to go through rejection and look at it differently, as Elisheva said, to approach it differently, not to freak out, but as the lack comes up from the rejection and the betrayal, you talk with the lack. You talk with the universe, you talk to the lack, you talk out loud and you say, hey, look, this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing because I know that the Creator controls everything.
I just want to put something in there. This is about betrayal as well. Correct. By the way, now we understand that betrayal can be the universe rejecting. It's not simply about the human being rejecting.
Correct.
Okay.
And we all want to get to this place that instantaneously we view rejection and betrayal as a good thing. As Elisheva said, we view it as protection. We view it as a new level opening up. We view it as the Creator helping us do something that we didn't have the strength to do. When something is ripped away from you, it's because it was meant to leave you at that moment for whatever reason. Doesn't mean forever. But the Creator knew that you didn't have the strength to let it go. Because for whatever reason, these people, this business, this friend circle has a journey it needs to go on without you at this moment. Maybe even your money has a journey it needs to go on without you. Your finances, your investments. So just because you don't have something in a moment or was taken away from you, be patient, because whatever is yours is yours. The energy is never lost. And the Creator will make sure, as long as your consciousness stays positive and certain, that you will have that replacement immediately. And in fact, the more doubts you have, the more of a victim you feel, the longer you delay the replacement of that energy.
Okay, so you're leading into what I was going to ask next, which is, how do you get over a very strong attachment to a person?
How do you get over a very strong attachment to a person? I would say, if I had to go through that, I would first ask, I would try to dissect the problem. Why am I attached? What am I attached to? What is it that I'm looking to receive from this person?
And by the way, in this case specifically, this is not somebody that you can avoid. This is this person who's asking has a child with.
A child, right. So
it's where there's one version where you can just delete their number, block them on social media. We're not talking about that experience.
Yeah. So I think there's two parts to it. One is be curious. Ask yourself a lot of questions. Find out what you really like about the situation. What is the energy that's really attracting you? Why do you feel that you can only receive it from this person? Why do you feel that the Creator can't give you more of this? Why do you not trust the Creator? The Creator will bring you what you need and what you want. Ask a lot of questions just to get clear about yourself, and you will identify limitations you have around what is the truth, limitations you have with relation to that the Creator is in control and it's not you that's in control. The other thing is, sometimes you're not allowed to know the answer. Sometimes you have to be stuck in a state of ambiguity and confusion. That's part of the process. Michael Berg shared a couple of weeks ago that story of Abraham. He said on one hand, the Creator told Abraham that your son, Isaac, will be the seed of a great nation and bring the channels of spirituality to the world. And so this is the great gift that you are being given, which is Isaac. And then he tells Abraham, go and kill your son Isaac. Two contradictory statements and visions from the Creator that Abraham receives. But Abraham was able to hold two confusing, contradictory messages side by side, in parallel, and hold them together, even though it was completely ambiguous. Our spiritual work is to go through life, sometimes not knowing at all what we need to do. Sometimes we're confused that there are two right answers, but say, even with this, I have certainty in the light of the Creator. I will move forward as best as I can every day. I will reveal light in the ways that is clear to me based on everything we've learned in the study of Kabbalah. I will transform other areas of my life that is clear what I need to transform. And in this area that is confusing, I will hold that in the box of certainty. I would place that in the box of certainty. And every day I will pray for greater clarity, but it's okay that I do not know. I'm very comfortable with not knowing. I'm very comfortable with not having knowledge. I'm very comfortable trusting the future as opposed to freaking out about it.
Okay. We're going to shift gears a little bit here. This particular question we got was about the woman who wrote in was asking about her mom, but I feel it's one of those universal questions about addiction and behavior and guilt and whatnot. So this is what she shares. How do you detach yourself from a relationship without feeling guilty? The backstory, as David I'm sure really wants, is her mother is an alcoholic and throughout the years has continuously battled with this addiction. However, she refuses to seek professional help and to allow others to help her, including her daughter. She has come to an understanding that her mom has her own battle, and she even has compassion for her. However, it's difficult to see her as she is deteriorating mentally and physically. She doesn't visit her or look for her, and quite honestly, she avoids seeing her. She does feel this sense of guilt from time to time, and at times doesn't know how to manage the situation.
That's a great question. First off, I think it's powerful to know the relationship between a parent and a child. The child has a lot of power to draw light to their soul through their parent's soul. So it should be known that this person, whatever spiritual work they do, whatever elevation of consciousness they partake in, will benefit their mom, even if their mom is not partaking in any spiritual work. This is even more true of parents who have passed away and their soul is going through a reincarnation journey. That soul relies on the living children to do spiritual work to elevate them. Now, that being said, it is important. What do we know to be 100% true? And what are we still confused about? Well, what we know to be 100% true is this child, the living child, needs to do her spiritual work, which means she must have elevated consciousness. No matter what, this is going to help her and her mom. That means no guilt. Guilt is a black hole of consciousness. Any kind of guilt, no matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter how bad you think what you did was. The guilt of it is worse than the action of doing it. And we all have guilt. We all feel torn up inside about stuff. It is important that when the guilt comes up, you can't suppress it, but when it comes up, you transform it to certainty. You transform it to happiness. You transform it to knowing that the Creator wants you to go through this process. Be kind to yourself. We all have human moments. In fact, sometimes we fall because the Creator wanted us to fall. Through the falling, we have greater elevation. So we're way too hard on ourselves, all of us. Elevating beyond guilt is the first step of healing and repairing the relationship with the mom. Many of us think that guilt is a love language. The more guilty I feel...
Guilt feels spiritual, feels like taking responsibility.
It feels like I'm loving you by feeling guilty about you. The more guilt I feel for my kids must make me a good
Absolutely.
parent. I must be the more guilt I have for my children, the more caring of a parent I am. This is a false belief system.
Wrong.
Correct? Guilt about anything is actually sucking energy and taking energy away from them. The more guilt I feel about my children, the more danger I'm putting my children in. And the more I am clouding my own ability to be a channel for them. So that's the first step. After she removes the guilt, I think she'll get more messages and more clarity. But until she does that, the other messages are going to be held in a backlog of what to do with her mom.
It's so powerful because whether it's an addiction or any other negative behavior, I think a lot of us relate to that question of how do you help somebody you love who's on a dark and damaging path. I know
Start with what you have, what you know for sure. Start with what you can control, which is this part of your consciousness, you need to change. Don't try to boil the ocean with people who are going through a tough time. And we try to do too many things. Start with what you know.
Right. There's two very general questions that we got, and I wonder if you prefer one over the other, if we can do both of them quickly. One is, how do you make, or maybe the first question should be, can you? And if you can, how do you make long distance relationships work?
How do you make a long distance relationship work? Well, I've never been in one.
I have.
You have. So why don't you start?
So I'll tell you from the point of view of the wisdom of Kabbalah, the key to the success of any relationship, romantic relationship, is friendship. Without friendship, there is no relationship. And that's one of the challenges with when two people start a romantic relationship and the romance starts out the gate, because there's a lot of energy and confusion that can take place when a relationship goes to being very physical right away or very tempestuous. There's a lot of passion and intrigue and you can't stop thinking about each other. And that sometimes it gets in the way of being able to assess whether a relationship really does have staying power. But to David's point from the beginning, maybe that fun one is meant to be the real thing if you can get past that first phase. But when a couple needs to spend a period of time apart, the only thing they have is their friendship. And that can be a really great thing if that's where your focus is. If that there is effort put toward growing intimacy, growing trust, being vulnerable, opening up, almost like a workshop. Okay, we need to be apart for this many weeks or this many months, or maybe it's a week every month for this much time. How can we, and I've given this advice to students as well, what can we accomplish while we're apart that will be difficult to accomplish when we're next to each other? And it really is a deep dive into removing the physical space between you, really using your mind and your heart and your words and your gestures to grow closer. Is it sustainable on a permanent level? I would say no. And maybe David, you want to weigh in on that, it's sustainable for a period, but it's not sustainable permanently.
Well, for sure not. I mean, at some point, the physical touch, the physicality of being with someone in close quarters, that is ultimately what is the union of right. Body and soul.
I know that I've met people over the years that one of the individuals works somewhere 5 days a week and then comes home on the weekends.
Right.
Which, again, for a period, we can work with that. Permanently, it's not a formula for long. You're not setting yourself up for long-term success.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say what is 100% true or not. I think that it really just depends on the desires of the two people, the soul connection, the past life, and their willingness to make it work. Without a doubt, there are more obstacles, and also there's less interaction happening for more tests to come up, which are what bring you closer. Right. So, it's easy to have a relationship where you still have your individuality. And I think long distance means I get to still be single, but be in a relationship.
Right. We did get a question from someone else who was asking. Try
sharing a bathroom with someone and then you know how spiritual you are.
Right. Someone who asked, she's been in a relationship with somebody that she's never met before. And I said to her, at the end of the day, you have to realize that it might not really be a relationship because so much of it is invented in your mind when you're not around each other. But anyway, that's another conversation.
Can't wait for him to come visit and spread his clothes all over the place and right. see how she reacts to that.
How true love really smells.
True.
Okay, last question. And this might be just even a sentence if you want to grace us with that. What's your best advice for building trust in a relationship?
I would say, and we all have challenges with this, but it's, and everyone talks about it, but they don't actually do the talking, which is the communication part. And I think setting up appointments regularly to talk about what's going on and being vulnerable, and that is probably just the first step, because you have to, when you don't share things proactively, you'll end up sharing them reactively. I know that we've all gone through that. I've gone through that. So I think I've learned the more upfront and proactive you can be without it coming from a place of blame, hurt, and being a victim, right? That perfect balance, you will start to develop trust. And 99% of the stuff that we're upset about is in our head. Once we start talking about it, it really starts to create a closeness, especially when two people really care about each other.
I have nothing to add to that. That was perfect and beautiful.
All right.
All right. So hopefully what you've heard today will help you overcome your own individual barriers to drawing more of this soulmate energy into your life. And of course, the more soulmates are united around the world, the closer we are to world peace, honestly. So let's get to work. Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. We want you to visit us at weeklyenergyboost.com if you haven't already, so you can click that top link and join our Kabbalah Ones, whether in person or virtually online. We have them starting in the next coming weeks in all languages and all locations. So please, if you haven't already, we would love for you to join us. You can also see more about our previous guests, listen to old episodes, and click the donate button to help make Weekly Energy Boost possible. Of course, the best thing you can do for us is to share this episode, like, rate, review if you haven't already, wherever you're listening. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.